Here, 9 o'clock Eastern time. This is the standard time that we rock on here for the live stream in the Independent Investor channel. For those of you guys that are making your way to the live stream for the first time, first of all, welcome. Second of all, congratulations. You've made your way to a channel that is been on YouTube now for a couple of years. We've grown nicely. I'm satisfied. Had some really interesting conversation come through the channel. I typically glean a lot of the good material for the live stream and summary based on some of the videos that we've been able to upload. Really try to offer some clarity surrounding some of the videos that we upload as well, and try to provide some amplifying information at who that's really aimed at, why we're uploading that type of material onto YouTube, especially with the portfolio reviews. Okay, I think you guys would benefit immensely from understanding why it is that I do that, and how I would wish that to be received when I do upload that stuff. I have a really funny approach to money and how I approach money, and I think you'll find that if you're going to gain the maximum value out of this community, I would highly encourage each and every one of you guys to try to understand each and every one of our styles of investing. Myself, Gen X dividend investors in the group. I've got Hidden Freedom Investing and Jerry in the group with GW Life TV Investing Retirement Life. Bam, hit it. I've got Focus Fire Investing. So Jamie's in the group with his killer thumbnail. It's absolutely fabulous. It just jumps out off the screen and wants to punch me in the face. It's lovely. I've got J Mac Investing in the group, who hosted a fantastic collaboration this week with Travis Williams, who's also in the group. So shout out to you, Travis, as well. If there's more channel creators that pop in here, I know Ryan Giffen is indisposed right now, so we're gonna keep the dialogue with Ryan to a dull roar, okay, in respect of his wife. Because if I was doing that, I'd probably get my iPhone thrown down the hospital hallway, okay. But we'll all cross fingers for Ryan Giffen and wish him all the best for sure. As they look to bring a new baby into the world for sure. I told him he needed to take all of that profit that he made off of Tesla and start a 529 for his kid. It's not going to be all about him anymore. Okay, that's what happens. But for you guys that are making your way in for the first time, welcome. For the existing channel creators, as well as the administrators of the Facebook group, I just saw Jared Odell pop in here as well. I do owe Joe Prack a specific shout out. Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate the support, man. You're certainly part of the family here on the Independent Investor channel. But some interesting questions come through this particular over the last couple of weeks. The channel, as far as my assessment, has started to snowball a little bit in the growth. I'm not capable of putting a viral video on YouTube. Perhaps maybe my time is coming for that type of activity. But quite frankly, I wouldn't trade the loyalty that I have with this community for anybody. No way. I get a very sincere number of people that are coming in on referral, and it's very encouraging to me to actually start breaking into some of the younger crowd that are making their way to the channel. Okay. If you are part of that younger crowd and you've made your way onto this channel, okay, I don't mean to come across this way, but here's the thing. If I was 24 and I was sitting across from me and I was saying some of the stuff that I was saying, the thing about it is, when you're 24, you're easily influenced. Okay. And I think for every good influence out there, there's probably 10 bad influences that can get you sidetracked, much more appealing. Okay. It's like the dark side. Okay. It's much more tempting. Okay. What I mean by that is, not everybody's going to retire at 30. Okay. There's going to be all kinds of temptation. You don't know if you're going to become that millionaire overnight, or you don't know if you're going to get that 9 to 5 job. You don't know what's going to happen at 24. Okay. I didn't. And I think as driven as our new generation of folks are coming up through the ranks, and they've got all the opportunity, this being one of them, quite frankly, because you can sit across from somebody like me and get a little bit of instruction. Good on me for taking my time and explaining a little bit about my investment road, because I've had a few folks come onto the channel and ask me how in the holy hell I've been able to raise the amount of capital, build the portfolios in the manner that I have in the time that I've declared over YouTube. And I can tell you, for the vast majority of time that I've spent investing correctly, I've spent an equal amount of time investing incorrectly. I can tell you that much right now. So if you're in that 20s crowd, even early 30s, up to about 35, I think it was about 32 when I really turned the page and started on the self-directed investing path. Man, pay attention. Do yourself a favor. Slow your life down a little bit. I know everybody nowadays wants instant gratification, but the ability to slow your roll down just a little bit and maybe just do yourself a favor, take a few moments to engage with either myself or engage with anybody in this community. Okay, do yourself a favor, because I think you'll find that my channel isn't created for my benefit. Okay, I really try to reach across the aisle a little bit and really try to relate with those subscribers that are making their way to the message, that really want to understand a little bit more about building personal wealth. Okay, I can help. You bet. All right. And I'm not going to be charging you $445 to join a stock market group. That's not going to happen. Why is that? It's because the very focus on my channel is based on you taking a quick look in the mirror and quit looking at everybody else's success, okay, and aspiring to those successes, okay? Those are somebody else's. Those don't exist for you. And at 24 years old or 25 or early 30s or in your 20s, and you're just trying to figure stuff out, I think the best thing that you could possibly do for yourself, do yourself a favor and start paying attention to your own capabilities and your own deficiencies. The quicker you can do that, you can start to write your own personal investment profile for yourself, which is key. Okay. A lot of different profiles represented in this group here. We had one on last week with Matt Money and JMac Investing, who were kind enough to come on to the collaboration with me. It was one of the most successful and enjoyable live streams that I've ever had on the channel. So I want to personally thank those two for coming on and having a great time. But you look at each and every one of those perspectives. You look at Dave with Hidden Freedom Investing. You look at a Gen X dividend investor, Travis Williams. I really enjoyed that collaboration on Wednesday. It was legit. Why do I enjoy that? It's because Travis Williams is unique in and of himself, right? He's got his own ideas and his own goals and his own set of priorities. Why do I mention this? It's super important for a new investor to come in and try to understand what works for me. Try to understand what works for some of these channel creators, okay? Because if they've taken that next step to creating content on YouTube, I can tell you what, they probably all have discovered the benefits of time versus money, okay? Turning their money into a money machine while it's generating that money when they're not thinking about it, okay? It's the beautiful thing. And the earlier you start in life on generating those assets that basically organically grow over time, that is the key, okay? But if you are new to the investing world, I can't even put myself in your shoes and understand how overwhelming the topic can be. Stick with us. Give us a chance, okay? There's not going to be anything that you're going to be able to gather from a 2-hour live stream that's going to change your life overnight, but I'll sure as hell try. Sure as hell try. See, here's the thing. With investing, it has to be part of your life, okay? It has to fall higher on the priority list than if you expect to succeed at investing, okay? And for a lot of people, I think they feel that, yeah, it's just something that came to them and they were referred to it and they're going to trip and fall in it and they're going to succeed at it. Furthermore, they may have this idea that they're going to trip and fall into the right stock, make 20%, and all of a sudden they're off and running and they're going to become the world's greatest gift to investing. Okay? Stick around. You can probably owe it to yourself to understanding that wealth building and wealth creation over time is a discipline. It is a discipline in and of itself. And if you're serious about that discipline, you can really, really incorporate some of these strategies for yourself and start to build wealth over time so it becomes less of a priority for you. Because the real key takeaway, and I know Gen X dividend investors in the group tonight listening to me, I'm going to give you some personal pages out of my playbook with regard to how I treat money, how I look at money, how I duplicate or replicate all the different forms of money that I want to put in play for my own personal wealth building strategy. The further you can get along that progression in thinking about money and thinking about it in much more of a broader context than an inflow or an outflow, the better off you're going to be. Okay. The more outside the box you can possibly think about your money, the more you can separate from your money, especially if you're a young person. Okay. I think you'd be surprised. I made the comment this week when somebody was asking me about investing. And actually, it was responding to one of the questions on the channel. They couldn't understand how somebody like me on a blue collar salary have built up a portfolio of $100,000. What I didn't say is I've got much more than that, but it was a valid question. It really was. And it really, really comes down to discipline. It comes down to an ability to separate what it is that most people look at when they look at money. Okay. Do the wallet test for yourself. The wallet test is always something that I've contended it is a true testament. If you're a male, pull out your wallet, open it up. If you've got hundreds of dollars of cash in there, bingo, right? That money's not working for you. If you're a female, pull out your purse. If you're a male and you have a satchel, good grief, pull the satchel out, okay? Open it up. And if you've got a wad of cash in there, okay, that money's not working for you, okay? And what I said is I wouldn't even know what my full paycheck looks like from my inflow. I wouldn't even know because for the longest time, I can't remember a time where I didn't intercept the money from my paycheck, pay myself first, and pay that to the investment portfolio. And it's just been that sound discipline over time that's helped me accumulate wealth. Now, what I don't want is for people to tune into the message and say, wow, that's really amazing. I want that. Okay. Without going through the understanding of how we ended up in that place. Okay. I do contend that anybody can do it, but I've made sacrifices. I really have. And you need to ask yourself if this investing thing is something that you want to pursue in your life, then great. We can help you. We can help you start to walk that road and incorporate, because we are on the front side of the wave of a new way of looking at investing. Okay. And I'm having some folks that are coming back to the channel and they are declaring their age and the amount that they started with when they started with the Independent Investor channel, and they've declared where they are now. And it is astonishing. So does this information have the potential to wealth build? Yes. Are you going to be able to take a starting amount of money and grow that wealth over time? Yes. Am I a magician? Can I supplement for deficiencies that you have in your life through investing? No, I can't. I can't. That's why I contend that investing in and of itself should not consume your life. Okay. You're going to have to work on other aspects of your life to make sure that you're getting the most out of your investing goals. Why invest? Why invest? If you've got other things going on in way of debt or poor spending habits or poor discipline or many of the other things that I talk about that are so important, I'm going to let you guys in on some of the stuff that really has helped me over time. Some real keys. We have tax season right around the corner. And for you guys in the group, I challenge each and every one of you guys that are going to be due a small or a large tax return. Most everybody that I talk to is going to take their tax return and they're going to put it on debt, okay, which is very admirable. I think that's smart. But I hate to see that debt consolidation is the primary reason as to why you build debt throughout the year, only to get to the year's end, get that tax return, and then put it right to debt. I would challenge you for this. And it's not a challenge that I put out there for the group that I don't walk myself. Because it's a strategy that I've deployed over the last many years, and that's when my tax return comes in, it goes straight into either savings or the investment portfolio. So I challenge each and every one of you to try to identify those small injects of capital when they do come in, because again, to the untrained eye that looks at that $100,000 portfolio and they've got stars in their eyes and they're like, wow, that's incredible. I'm going to say something to you guys that's probably going to blow some of your minds away. Okay. $100,000 is not that much money. All right. What are we shooting for? Okay. You think that you're going to go through life and you're going to have no hiccups at all? You're not going to have unexpected medical expenses. You're not going to buy a home at the wrong time and end up in hawk, right? Okay. Those expenditures come up at the worst time. They usually do. And if you're looking to generate some dividend income when you do retire to supplement Social Security, or you don't trust that Social Security will be there, or you invest full well knowing that 10, 20, 30 years from now, with the pace of inflation where it is, your money is going to be significantly less valuable in the future. Okay. So, at the very best, outpacing inflation and trying to get a little bit of capital appreciation, as well as maybe some compounding growth going forward in the portfolio, is really where the focus should be. Really should. Okay. So, you can believe me or not, my sheer focus really isn't on an arbitrary number in the portfolio. It's not. It's actually on the share base that I'm able to grow over time. And I've seen a lot of videos released over YouTube declaring, hey, I got 23, I've got all these dividend checks, I've got all these dividend checks. Those are great. That's one of the main reasons a dividend investor is going to invest. And congratulations, you've held the stock long enough to be paid the quarterly dividend. That's awesome. That's a start. But it's not really about the 7 cents that you've earned. It's not really about that $1.07. It's not about that $10.07. It's not about that $100.07. It's really about your ability to lower your cost basis in the underlying asset that you own, as well as buy more shares of the stock that paid the dividend through the drip. That's really where your focus should be. A true wealth builder is always looking at the share accumulation. And that's why I declared that portfolio that I've got is just a little over 1,000 shares. There would have been a time in my life when I would have said you're crazy if you would have said I would have had a portfolio with over 1,000 shares at 42 years old. Furthermore, when I say isn't really that much money, you have to realize that for a 24-year-old that may be looking at that portfolio and saying, wow, that's incredible. It is, but from a relative perspective at my age, I'm just doing what it is that I would have expected that I would have done had I stayed true and kept pressure on my investing plan going forward, right? So why is it so spectacular that I'm just doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And at 42, I have X number of dollars put away. I don't think there's anything special about that, guys. I apologize if I'm impugning my own portfolio. I will say this: the success that's to be gleaned from that portfolio is the amount that I do have invested, both tax protected, number one. Number two, wealth preserved. I've got about 75% of my funds that are both. Okay. And what this subscriber couldn't take away from is the fact that I was declaring I made that or built that over time on a single, and it is. I'm a single income family. My wife does not work. He asked if I had a sugar mama. That was kind of funny, actually, but I don't. But there was some question there about how do you do that? And I think that's the real success, is my ability to separate what it is that I was destined to save, in line with most people, most earners that are making less than 50,000. I mean, I started at 25,000, just like anybody who starts out, and has built myself up. So the separation from the salary that I do own, because I do, to my own defense, know a lot of people that make hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're a freaking disaster. They really are, financially. They could be great people. They just like to spend money, and they have zero discipline, you know? So I think the question for a lot of you guys is, where is it that you want to fall? All right. So following on to last Friday's live stream, I'm doing this through StreamYard. I've dropped the link into the collaboration. I'd invite anybody, both channel creators or if there are subscribers, I would love to have my first subscriber pop into this collaboration with me. I'm actually going to drop the link into the thread again. It'll be right at the bottom. So you guys feel free to jump in on this for sure. Don't hesitate. The whole idea behind this couple hours is I learn so much more by engaging in this topic. And this is a very engaging platform on YouTube. It allows us to come on. It allows us to talk about the week, which, yes, it was volatile. It was up, down a little bit. I don't share in some of the sentiment that it was that abnormal, to be honest with you. I didn't spend a whole lot of time looking at the market, to be honest with you. Being that my affiliation is where it is, I was actually paying attention to rockets in the air and planes falling out of the sky. So my priorities were locked in on stuff that was actually important, because right now that stuff really isn't important. And I told you guys toward the end of last year, I kind of locked the portfolio down a little bit. My newest positions as of last week were BlackRock. I'm super stoked about that. There's some scary talks going on right now with a remerger of Blackstone Group, as well as maybe a potential there for a merger with Goldman Sachs. So some interesting stuff there, but I actually hope they don't do that. I really think BlackRock has a very unique thing going on. But the new stock purchase for me actually this week was BCE in the telecom sector, which is Canada's telecom play. So I did actually consolidate the first trade portfolio down to 3 ETFs. I sold off those stocks and took some tax loss harvesting at the end of last year. You guys will be interested to know. I'll roll that out and basically just do a quick review of the first trade portfolio that I have. You guys know that that's my YouTube dividend repository. I made the comment last week, and for all you channel creators out there that are just starting to get monetized, hang in there. It's legit, because what would you have to have? You'd have to have 100 grand, 6% to make $6,000 a year. I'm kind of there right now. So I look at it like that. I mean, if I could, do $400 or $500 a month, how much stock would you need to be paid a $400 or $500 dividend every month, right? So for you guys that are grinding and cutting teeth in the channel creator realm, stick with it. I'll do everything I can do to help you. I'm not really engaging as I could be, I guess. I'm not omnipresent like Gen X Dividend Investor, who is on every social media platform. I think I was on a Joe Rogan podcast the other day, and there he was, man. He was chatting it up, man. He was in here an hour early, chatting it up. But I appreciate and acknowledge the heck out of that. But when you've got guys like J Mac Investing as well, is really just doing a superb job trying to rotate folks through his channel as well. Guys, man, take advantage of that. Okay. If I were to tell you that I don't think it makes a difference on the channel, especially when you're a newer channel with less than 10,000 subscribers, you get on the bandwagon. I don't know what you're waiting for. Okay. You got to be hungry. I mean, I'm closing in on 20,000 and I'm just as hungry as I was on day one. So it gets a little bit more interesting as you start to put a couple years under your belt. And you see some folks really accelerate in their growth. You see some channels kind of go away a little bit. And that's totally fine. But take advantage of this opportunity, man. I would love nothing more than to see one of you guys just randomly pop in here. Take advantage of it. Okay. These opportunities, they're not commonplace. Okay. And I spend most of my time being extremely scrutinizing of those temptations that I talk about in the landscape, especially for some of our young investors out there. Good grief. It's got to be tough. It really does. It's like sign up for my stock market course, man. I've got all these stocks that nobody knows about, man, and I'm going to let you in on it if you join my group. And it's like, look, my perspective on this is very, very simple. Okay. And I'm going to give it to you now, whether or not you want it or not. Okay. Because I know I've taken some heat for this. It's totally fine. That $445 that you're wasting on a stock market course that's on sale, or a stock group, like a monthly subscription, okay, which, by the way, is a good dollar cost average if you split it up over 12 months, okay. The $445 that you're going to drop on that is going to be a complete and utter waste of money. Okay. Even if it was on sale from the advertised price of $7,900. Okay. Even though it appears as if it's a great deal. Why don't you guys don't do it for me. Okay. Do it for yourself. Become extremely scrutinizing, okay, of what you're observing on the program. And I'm not exempt from that. Okay. I want to attract a community of folks that are making their way on and they are critical of the information. Why? Because the people we are looking to get to are individuals. The most important person in your investing career should be you. It shouldn't be supporting my agenda. It shouldn't be supporting Jamie's agenda, who I'm going to pop on here right away. He's just been nice enough to jump on here. And then I just had another one jump on. So we're going to do two at the same time, if you guys don't mind. He just popped off. He probably got gun shy. That's what happens. A little stage fright. But Bishop, if you're working some stuff out there, you're totally welcome to pop on here for sure, because you would, in fact, be, if you're a channel creator, I've had a few on there, but if I have not had a subscriber yet, and I would love to have somebody who I'm really trying to aim this message at pop on here. But I really want to pop Jamie on here as well, give his thoughts from the week as well. So I'm going to add him to the stream. Just a sec, Jamie. Let me plug you into the audio.
Cool. Good.
You got me good?
Yeah, I got you loud and clear.
Yeah, I got. Yeah, awesome. Hey, great
Sweet.
for coming on, Jamie. Thank you so much. I looking to follow up on the fun I had last Friday. I was so amped up, I couldn't sleep after that. It was a lot of fun, man. And I think we got to a lot of people. I really do. I mean, what would you think of if you were a new investor and you were making your way onto this opportunity and you were sitting back like, whoa, what is going on? What are these guys doing?
Well, I was watching the chat earlier, and somebody was talking about how, I think they're talking about fees earlier, actually. And they're talking about how I wish back in the day there was no fees. And then somebody was like, oh, I wish back in the day there was internet, And it was just like, bam. I was like, whoa, true statement there. Because where does somebody turn when they want to start into the market, when they want to start investing. Like that's like people get entire degrees and work their entire life to try and learn what they're doing, and they might go their entire life and still not know what they're doing, maybe a fund manager. But to find somebody like you or a lot of these financial channels out here that are giving pretty decent advice, at least how to get your foot in the market, like there's so many opportunities out there, and it's not difficult. And I think that's what your channel does here, is it boils it down to like an easy first step for somebody to take.
How long have you had your channel, Jamie?
I think I got started actually right when JMac got started. So my growth has definitely been a little slower. Speak of the devil, you popped them up on screen, but I think I started around March, April, I believe. So it's been on and off. You and I both have full-time jobs, as many of the channel creators do here. And I think that's one of the things is being consistent. If you are going to be a channel creator, it's difficult because if you're running a full-time job, sometimes, your channel just gets pushed to the back burner, and you got to come up with content and meet the algorithm, which who knows what's really in there. But
to be kind of honest with you, I enjoy my time away from the channel, to be honest with you.
Sometimes you need, yeah.
I don't know. It just keeps me fresh, and it keeps me focused on those folks. I have to make sure that we're really locked in, because I know we're not going to save everybody. I get it. And quite frankly, there's probably half of the people that don't deserve this message, to be honest with you. But for those that are seeking it out and they're looking to really build and empower their own lives, and they make their way on, I got to make sure that we reach those people if we can. Otherwise, why are we doing this?
For sure.
It totally makes more sense to really be engaged, and it does. It keeps me fresh. I was talking to Ryan Scribner tonight. I invited him on the screen as well, and hopefully he pops on. I don't think he's going to go live with me, but I'd like to see him. But he was talking about his struggles, as engaged as he is and how much traveling that he does. He's always plugged in, and he's got to work for that time away from social media. And it's something to kind of keep in mind. I really try to seek that balance, and I've been doing this a while. And so you go through a little bit of trial when you're doing this, and you go through your ebbs and flows. You really do. I don't know if you've experienced it yet. But
I think I'm experiencing it right now, to be completely honest. I mean, I just moved back from overseas back to the States, and I moved into a new job here, and I've been completely slammed. So honestly, when, breaking news happens, or people are like, holy crap, the market totally, went down today, 1%, 2%, whatever. I don't even realize it until like 9 o'clock at night when I'm like laying in bed, scrolling through Facebook or something. I'm like, oh, the market went down. Like, oh, cool. Like, I find out aftermath, like way after the fact, because I'm just not looking at the market all day. So that's one of the things I was kind of asking you is like, I know you said you were watching the market on your car ride home there, but for people like that are investing for the long run, like myself here, that's why sometimes like index investing can be so beneficial, because you just don't have the time in every day or every week to just keep up with everything. So
I'll say a couple things to that. I've got Steve T here who's waiting to jump in here. He's going to be a guest. I'd like to invite him on here, Jamie, if you don't mind. I'd like to hear what Steve has to say as well. Sure. So I'm going to bring him on, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've observed in the ETF and index fund investing realm from my perspective. But I'm going to bring him on and let him introduce himself. Hey, Steve.
Hey, how you guys doing tonight?
What's going on?
Doing super good, man.
Thanks for bringing me on. Just another Friday night.
Where are you hailing from, Steve?
Just outside of DC, about 25 minutes outside of Washington, DC.
Awesome, man. I'm just south of you here in Virginia. Very cool.
Yeah, man. I saw your pictures when you were in DC. I wish I could have, caught you when you were down here.
Yeah, man. That's the cool thing about this social media thing. It's really cool. I've told the story a few times, but I'm so passionate, and this really is my favorite topic. I really do love personal finance and personal empowerment. It's even more fulfilling if you can bring somebody along on the journey, because
Sure.
I'm kind of along my road a little bit. But can you talk a little bit about, how long you've been following the channel and kind of are you a channel creator? Are you a subscriber? How on that?
I'm not a channel creator as of yet. I do have a small Facebook group that me and my friend MAC rate we started last year, but I've been in the market since 2018. I guess I got in at a good time. Initially, I got in the stock market in '08, but you know how that went down. I made an investment in '08. I kind of got some bad investment advice at that point. I kind of jumped out of the market. And it wasn't until 2015 we got back into Acorns, which is like an investment app.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it got me back into the market.
What's your opinion of Acorns, Steve?
What's that now?
What's your opinion of Acorns? Can you talk to the group a little bit about your experience with it? You like it?
I think it's a good app for people who are just trying to get their feet wet. Someone who's never had anything besides maybe a money market account or your basic savings account. It's something to like start getting exposed to the market. Has a really easy point of entry. Doesn't take practically any experience investing whatsoever to use it. My dad actually still uses it for his side investing. He has a Merrill Lynch account and he's been doing investing for 25 years, but he still uses it for a side account. I think he's been averaging 7 to 10% in the last. It's nothing spectacular, but it's not too bad really at all. I would recommend it.
Have you ever used that, Jamie? The Acorns app?
I've never used Acorns.
Still out, so
I've heard decent stuff about it, and I definitely was researching that when I was looking through all the. I think isn't Acorns free for stock trades as well?
Well, it's more like broader ETFs. If you actually look at it's VO, VTI. You can't really pick individual stocks. You go between, what your risk tolerance is. So if it's low, medium, high, and there's about 5 tiers in between that. So you just choose where you want to be.
That matches Ryan's message almost completely, to be honest. Did you look at what would have happened to say there was an Acorns in 2008 and you would have went with the VOO and stuck it out? I'm sure you've kicked yourself in the butt for that, but just to see, it's tough to look back, hindsight 2020, say what if, but you can't not do it, say what if.
I think that all the time. I'm like, instead of picking individual companies at that point, which I didn't have as much knowledge in terms of researching those companies. I think now the information is so out there. Yeah. There's so many different places like these channels, like Ryan's channel, where you can go and get the information so readily accessible. But at that point, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, you really either had to pick up a book or have a mentor, someone to walk you through it. And, it was easy to get burned at that point, I think. But nowadays, like I said, even back then, I was paying $12 a purchase, commission fees, $12 with E-Trade. And now everything's free. Even Vanguard last week cut their commissions. And that's just the way between that and micro investing now. It's made it
amazing. I remember I put my first trade, I think it was $100. I think it was with TD Ameritrade, and I got charged, I think it was $7.95. And now that I think back, I said, holy crap, that was 8%. I lost 8% that second. I had to make 8% in the future just to break even. And of course, when you're new, you don't even think about something like that. But now you're like, you start out at neutral, at zero. And you can either go straight up from there. There's no getting back to zero. But, if you're paying even more than that, that's ludicrous,
I would add to that and say, to my theme and message over the channel in the last couple of years, if financial planners would just come out and say, hey, we're going to charge you a flat fee per year, $59.95, you get 4 visits, that would be a better deal than the even more hidden 3% average across the industry, because that figure right there is what really chews up that compounding growth on the latter end. So if you're investing for the long term, you're doing the right thing, but unfortunately you're taking all the risk over that, let's say 30 or 40 year time horizon, and you're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars back to the system. Mm-hmm. And that right there, and that's when I first started in Merrill and I was trading for free. I had people hit me up all the time. Ryan, how are you doing this? What other options are out there? And there wasn't many. That was even before Robinhood came out. But unless you were at an incentive threshold in your account, you weren't enjoying that. And now, man, it doesn't matter. You got M1 Finance out there. You've got, I'm not a big fan of Robinhood for very specific reasons, but I think if folks can really understand that there are no more barriers to entry, that's a key takeaway. The stock market's right there to to be a participant in whatever form you choose, whatever degree, so.
Yeah, so many people see it as gambling, or they don't understand how the stock market works at all. I try to tell my friends about it, family members about it, and they just like, their eyes are wide open. They just don't understand what we're doing. But had I started investing at 18, like some of these guys I see, like the guy on your channel last week, he's 18 years old. And if you start at that age, can you imagine by 59 and a half what you may have in a Roth IRA at that point? It just really
it's a gift.
That investor you're talking about, he's in the group, and I told him last week, I said, you're 7 figures, like a healthy 7 figures for sure at 18, because he has the ability to contribute well. And he's had that discipline very young,
right,
to make investing a priority, which a lot of young people don't have that. And that's why I always say, look, if you're 18, 19, 20, early 20s, mid 20s, whatever it is, start off with that $25. Do acorns. That's fine, because you're going to get that mental conditioning down, and you're going to understand the value of paying yourself. Then over time, you're going to understand and start to ask the questions, what if I would have invested more? What if it would have been a little bit higher priority? Come on, you can do a little bit more, and you start to go through those deliberations. Everybody goes through them, but you can't really go through them unless you start and become an investor. There's no better lesson than actually participating in the market and logging some time,
If you Steve, have you seen there's like a chart, maybe some of the videos out there of the power of investing in your 20s compared to your 30s?
Yeah. I've seen them, and it's really about time in the market, right?
Time in the market, yes. So, I mean, I'm talking 20s versus 30s, and this guy's in his 18, he's 18, so in his teens. So imagine an extra 3-year boost on that. The guy that invests in his 20s can actually stop putting money into the market, and the guy that's 30 plus will continue to put money in there and still get beat by the guy that was investing at 18. It's absolutely insane. If somebody can get it through their head when they're young, say, hey, I only need to invest for maybe like 10 really good years and just let it compound from there on out. Like, you don't have to put any more in, and you will still beat people that are late to the race. It's insane when you learn, like, really. I mean, people say it and it just kind of gets kind of numb when people say, oh, it's the 8th wonder of the world, compound interest. Like, and people just kind of like start putting it in the back burner. They're like, what does that really mean? But when you actually learn about it, it is extravagant when you're talking about a long time horizon for investing. I'm curious, how old are you, Steve?
Just turned 34.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's when I got serious.
Yeah. No, I feel like I'm living this every single day now. But you're absolutely right. You bring up a great point, because I'm thinking, okay, how much can I crunch every single month? And obviously, we're 29,000 on the Dow, and you want to make sure you hedge your investments. But every week I'm saying, how much can I put into this market? And whether it be $800 a week, whatever it is. But still, it's more about time. You could put in 2,000 a week, but you can't get back 5 or 10 years. And that just like speaks on how important it is to start early. The more time you're in the market, the better, because the dividends can compound and the growth over time. So that's absolutely true.
I think something that helps me, Steve, too, when I'm looking to wealth build, there's nothing you can do about that, right? So don't worry about those things that you can't control. There's all kinds of cool stuff that you can control. And just with the opportunities in the landscape, number one, they've made it so conducive to investors now. So they've put some chips on your side to start already, chips that you would have lost before had you started 10, especially 20 years ago when I started, man. I don't remember ETFs, man. My entry to the market was mutual funds. And it wasn't single stock. I was scared to death of single stock when I started. I was like, whoa. That's just for the big boys and gals. I don't mean to impugn anybody. I know we've got some female investors in the group here too. But it's one of those things that, man, I didn't buy my first single stock maybe 10 years ago, maybe when I was your age. I bought that first 10 share block of AT&T. And
have you realized that's actually kind of lucky, and like, just to have that fear of buying maybe a single stock. There are some great single stocks out there. Of course, we've got blue chips and dividend paying stocks that have been doing great things for the last 50 plus years. But a lot of the people that are in single stocks are in single stocks because they believe it's going to produce a ridiculous return in a very short amount of time. So you were very lucky to be saying, hey, I want to invest in an ETF or an index fund. And Steve, I don't know if you've looked into that. They haven't been around for that long. I think, John Bogle was the one that created that, and he just passed away last year. So, the guy that just died was the first one to create index fund. Shows you how new they really are. So,
well, the first thing I did in 2018 is I bought 3 mutual funds from Vanguard: VSTAX, VIGAX, which is a growth fund, and BWIGX, which is their international. I didn't even know about ETFs really, and then now I'm looking at it, and the ETFs now are so competitive to the mutual funds. Their expense ratio are practically identical. In some cases, the ETFs are even lower. I like the fact that the mutual funds you can you can cost dollar average. You don't have to buy full shares. But I just opened the M1 account 2 months ago, based on this show, and just the ability to create your own pie and do micro investments on there. If you have $15, $20, it goes towards all your piece of your pie. Whereas you're still waiting in your standard account to actually have enough to buy one share. Being able to weekly cost dollar average, that's pretty powerful. Not having to wait to have a full share, that definitely helps.
I'm sure Brian can attest to it too. You'll get to the point where your portfolio will start turning enough to where your dividends alone will buy shares, like full shares. I'm not talking a full share of like Amazon. It's like a normal $100 to $200 share. I mean, you'll start achieving those milestones if you choose to be a dividend investor. And that's a pretty awesome milestone to hit.
Have you paid attention to on that growth strategy that I've just deployed, Steve, as well? Have you seen that pie that I threw in there? I picked 12 aggressive growth: Amazon, Google, Facebook, Alibaba's in there, PayPal, Netflix, Nvidia, Salesforce is one of them. Uber is one of them. Why not? I actually am very excited about Uber. Tesla's made me excited to own 3/4 of a share.
Right.
But,
I'm pretty sure you only own that because the other Ryan, like 100%. That's the only reason.
I was just tired of taking crap. You know what I mean?
You got peer pressured for sure.
Yeah, right.
100%.
The cool thing about that is like what you're saying, Jamie, about the dividend growth strategy. That's in the Roths. Both Roth accounts are really built around that foundational ETF base. And then those good quality blue chip companies that are in there paying that nice dividend, and super long term on those. Because yes, I am going for over an average. That's why you invest in single stock. Okay.
Right.
But it's hard because sometimes you've got to go through multiple years. If you've paid attention to the Gen X dividend investor videos, there are multi-year swoons in some of those stock. That doesn't mean that within a year and a half that can't boom, throw multiple points of appreciation and jump right ahead of the market, right? So you've got to have a little bit more tolerance. Whereas if you just buy the index, of course, you're going to get as close as you can to meeting that index, which is good for a lot of investors. If you could just default to that and say, I want to invest in it and forget it, great, you can do that. And at least almost guarantee you're meeting the market. So,
Oh, go ahead, Steve.
No, I was gonna say the more you get into it and the more passionate you become about it, it's almost as if you don't want to just leave and forget it. You want to be so involved in your own portfolio.
That can be a problem.
Yeah.
On a daily basis, when you become like your own self-directed investor, now you're managing your own retirement, maybe on a daily basis. You're monitoring your dividends. I think in December I had 9 different dividends. So for individual companies, mostly from the M1 account, I was trying to build an SPHD position for the last 6 months, and now it's churning out $31 a month in dividends. So not a complete share, because right now it's trading at $44 a share, but just being able to watch that unfold, month after month, week after week. Definitely powerful,
Hey, if you don't mind me asking, Steve, are you contributing to a taxable brokerage account? Are you eligible for a Roth or a traditional IRA? How on that?
Yeah, I have a Roth, which I've been funding since 2018. I have a standard IRA, and I have a brokerage account, along with the HSA, health savings plan.
Nice.
And then I'm trying to decide whether or not I'm going to open up a 529 account or a custodial account for my I'm supposed to have expecting my first child in March. So I'm already I know Vanguard will let you create a 529 and you actually will be able to put in your spouse's name, and once the baby's born you can actually put it into your child's name. But just weighing out the pros and cons versus, I know a lot of people in the chat, I think a few weeks ago, were commenting on 529s versus custodial accounts. And
so
what do you think?
I have both. Ironically enough, Steve, I invested for my kids a 529 right when they were born. So I didn't get them before. That's pretty awesome. I didn't know that option existed, but I just swapped them over from Edward Jones to Merrill. I like their program. It's sponsored through Maine. You'll understand, you get into the nitty gritty, it's actually a state sponsored program. And so even though I'm in Virginia, they've got to route it through Maine, which is the sponsoring state, which is fine. But as far as the CMA account, I just opened up the UTMA accounts for both of my kids this week. So I congratulate on them. They became investors. They each own one share of VTI. So awesome. I'm so stoked for them.
I can't even do the math on that. We're talking about investing in 20s and 30s, investing at 1.
Yeah, well, my son is 8 and my daughter's 12. So that we just figured, the 529 is specific for college, but what a great gift, when they reach that vesting age of either 18 or 21. It depends on what state you're in. I just wanted to gift them that money because knowing what I know about investing, it was just silly not to. And I'm more excited to invest for them than I am for me, to be honest with you. That's just how I roll. But I just contributed $25 each today for them. So look into that UTMA, Uniform Transfer to Minors Act, Steve.
Yeah, I definitely will do that because, with the way things are going now, 529s for education, obviously, but what if a child decides that they want to go a different route to,
I know.
trade, the trade, sometimes it may cover that or another route altogether. So that other custodial account may be a better option.
It's just more freedom and flexibility, I think. Go ahead, Jamie.
Steve, how'd you find this channel? I'm just curious.
Oh, I was turned on to this channel by a friend of mine. His name is Mac. He's probably somewhere in the chat. I know he's been following you for a few years now. He turned me on to this a couple years ago, and then I've been following you pretty much every week. I tell him it's like Friday nights, like kind of like a pep rally, getting in here and just.
I have no idea. Do you have any idea how much that means to me? What you just told me?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm blind to that stuff, man. And we were just kind of talking about the stamina you need to put out YouTube content. Like, I love this channel, but sometimes I'm like, are the people hearing this? Am I doing it okay? I'm super critical. I'm the most critical critic of my own ability than anybody. There's no critic out there. There's no amount of trolling that I could get that can be more. But it means a lot to me that it's being shared. That you thought enough or your friend thought enough to bring you on to it, Steve. So really appreciate that, man. Legit.
Yeah, we try to share your videos with other people who haven't really, who haven't even thought about retirement. A lot of people who just, for whatever reason, live week to week, paycheck to paycheck, and really don't put anything aside for retirement. So we try to share your message with these people,
That's awesome. Just wait till you have your kid, and then you'll really treasure these Friday nights because hopefully your kid's sleeping. I have a 3-year-old, and I know Ryan's got some older kids, but when my kid goes down at the right time just to come up like, hey, live stream's coming on for Ryan, I can hop on. I literally hopped on the hour mark tonight. So usually I'm a little late, but tonight was all right.
I don't know. Jason, J-Mac Investing. I don't know, Steve. You got to follow Jason if you don't already. I'm sure that you do.
I do.
He made a comment. He made a comment. He was doing his 2019 review, and he was talking about some of the successes on the channel. And just like I approach investing, this YouTube opportunity is part of our what we do, and so they understand, and they support the heck out of it because they know, and that's why it's 9 o'clock. That's why it's not during the midday because I was outside. It was 72 today, right? It was nice up there in DC too, right?
72.
Yeah,
Freaking 72 today, man. It was legit.
It was
freaking
zero.
I ran
zero.
today. It was awesome, man. But
I hate
yeah,
you.
no, I can't do that. But they know how much this means to me. They really do. And they're willing to make those small sacrifices at night because they know, at least I know, that we do have a potential to reach a lot of people, and hopefully we are.
No, yeah, like every Friday night, I'm on my phone, and my wife looks over, she sees you talking, she knows it's the Friday night live stream. And I showed her a video of yours, the one you did you did a video with your wife, and you guys talked about your routine and how you guys are both on the same, path to saving. And me and her watch that together, and me and her are kind of like a team like that. So she's downstairs now, she knows I'm on here, and every Friday night I tune into you, and she's right here by my side listening too. So
freaking means a lot to me, man. And it's funny because that's one testimonial feedback to the channel. I got a little bit of negative feedback for that too. So, when you put yourself out there, man, you never know how it's going to be perceived. And I've evolved with this channel just as much as anybody. I've learned what you can and can't do and what you should do. And I definitely want to try to push the envelope. But at the same time, how forward leaning can you be, so I just saw a passive income investor pop in here, and he just popped off. I don't know if he's trying to troubleshoot some technical. I saw you pop in there for sure. But if one of you guys want to yield out, you're welcome to. Steve, you can hang out and talk finances with me all night, man. Freaking really appreciate you popping on here for sure. Jamie, you stay with me, man, if you want to.
All right.
I think I'm gonna go. My wife's downstairs, but I'm
Tell her
bringing me
thanks.
on the show, and I appreciate what you guys do. Thank you so much.
We'll keep doing it. Thanks, Steve. Be well, man. Happy New Year to you.
Okay.
I hope Steve keeps watching, but I don't think he realizes like the power of having his wife in on the financial decisions like that. Like he said it earlier, where a lot of his friends and family to his left and right, he tries to talk finances with, and they just don't care about it. It's not a subject that they want to entertain. But if your wife or your spouse, for that matter, is involved in it and actually cares about it, that is so important, because a lot of spouses don't care. I think a lot of households, there's only one person that really controls the majority of the finances. And so if you can have both people on board, man, that's a power right there.
Yeah, and we've evolved a little bit over time. I mean, we're going on 15 years coming up in March. So we've had some real good time to practice about it. And when we first got married, she didn't know anything about investing. I made her an investor. But I think some of the rules that we abide by are do everything equal. So when we are looking to do these new Roth contributions for 2020, we'll look to make those contributions in equal. It's a little different this year. I'm trying to hold off a little bit on those contributions for 2020. I've been doing the lump sum in January, and I don't know if I like it very much. I may default back to more of a DCA schedule and do it monthly.
That's how I've been doing it also for this year. A lot of the guys, though, that say aren't debt free or they don't have a surplus of cash where they can max out a Roth IRA, I think that's an awesome strategy. Is if they do say get the tax return, which we've talked about previously, it's a very large lump sum. You can put it into the Roth IRA, but not invest it all at one time. You can put it in there so it's set aside so you won't accidentally spend it, because some people, they know themselves and they say, hey, if I don't put it in this account, I might spend it on something, on a want, So putting it into that account and just segregating it and saying, hey, I'm going to trickle this in, I'm going to dollar cost average it in over the year, it's not a terrible strategy. So you make sure you get that $6,000 in the Roth IRA. I mean, Steve is pretty set up. He's got a lot of different accounts, and if he does it right, he's got a pretty good tax strategy if he knows what he's got on his hands there. So
if there's any other, and you, Jamie, too, I wanted you to hear what Steve had to say about like that feedback. Sometimes like you do it in a vacuum, and you really don't know when you put out a video and 1,000 people watch it, you really don't know the impact of that until somebody comes on and they're like, hey man, thank you. That is pretty awesome.
I'm glad that Steve had the courage to hop on. I mean, that takes a lot of courage to hop on a live stream for the first time. He's just on his couch chilling.
I'm trying to break down those barriers a little bit too. So, and I know Kyle popped on here. I definitely want to get him on here for sure.
Yeah.
But he might be troubleshooting. I know he's hailing from Canada, so I want to make sure that he's got his.
Are you saying Canadians have crap internet? No.
Yeah, he said it. I think. Yeah, I've been on a couple streams with him that are like, oh, I'm running out of juice, or
Yeah.
So
I've got 7% left on my phone. Let's make it
Yeah.
last.
For sure. No, I caught some of your content this week too, Jamie. It's really good, man. Just, are you liking this YouTube opportunity? Talking about, it's going to make you a better investor. I'm telling you that.
For sure. I mean, it's a long-term thing. Again, it's a long-term play, but also it's a documentation, because when you think back a lot of times, hey, how was I doing 2 years ago? Man, I can't even remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. Like, you know what I mean? So how am I going to know what I did a year ago, or where my accounts were at as far as balances, what I was doing, strategy? It's really easy to just look back, click a video and say, oh my God, look how far I've come. Not just in my accounts, but also like in video editing, like there's so many different things, and it builds you up, you know what I mean? Like, and just talking with people, and just being surrounded by it. Some nights I hop on with you guys. Some nights I'm just sitting back here with my little adult beverage, and I'm just watching. I'm just a viewer that night. But like Steve's doing here too, just getting invested into the group, not financially, but just mentally, just surrounding yourself with a good base of people, because I'm the same exact way. There are not a lot of people, like 9 out of 10 of my friends don't like talking about finances. I love talking about finances, and I will find myself with them just like the deer in the headlight, look at me like, what are you talking about? And then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to leave. Like
I had my colleague, Jamie, the other day, it was like last week or the week before. He was like, what? You're 40. You don't play video games? It's like, you're the first 42-year-old I've ever talked to that does not play video games. And
that's crazy.
First of all, man, like, if I took 15 minutes out of my evening where there's dishes to be done and there's dinner to be prepared, there's things to do. You know what I'm saying? My wife would come in and be like, really? What's stuff to do? It's not even like that. It's like I'm taking time away from like productivity. And I'm kind of like, to bring it back home anymore, I don't really care to watch that much television, to be honest with you. I do catch the market for sure. I enjoy watching that. But aside from that, I'd much rather come in here. This is a much more engaging, it's enjoyable as hell. And
that's
it's
fun.
quick as 2 hours. We've been going over an hour. Dude, it seems like we've been talking for like 5 minutes, I swear.
It's easy. You just lose track of time, and like being a content creator or just a viewer, subscriber, like I said, you get invested in, and it's fun, because if I wasn't a content creator, I don't think I would do as much research, and I wouldn't be as affiliated with all of the financial community that's built on here, though. Like, that's a huge thing that wasn't available 10, 15 years ago. Like, you probably would have to go out to a golf course or a cigar bar or something to find, I don't know, like the right community to hang around. But here it's like, click, boom, I'm in there Friday night, no matter where you're at in the world. You pull your phone out, bang, you're on the live stream. Like, it's too easy,
I don't listen. I've said many times, there's only a finite amount of investing accounts out there. There's only a finite amount of dividend kings, dividend aristocrats, right? We comb over that stuff, okay? And that's why the joke at the top of the live stream, look, here's the thing. If you want to come out with a stock market group, okay, and you want to charge $445 a year to join that group, lovely. But why don't you just tune into a Gen X dividend investor video? You'll find out everything you want to know about Disney for free. It's freaking free. Like, why don't you just, like, I don't know, donate to his favorite charity or whatever he wants, but tune into the video for free. Like, why do people always just opt to give their money away? I've done videos on this before, and I'm all about people making compensation. I get it, but sorry if this is like a controversial topic or whatever, but it needs to be talked about. There won't be any of that type of activity on my channel, because I feel like outside of the core investments that we talk about, Jamie, what else are you offering? You're talking about stocks that aren't well known, or there's not 2,000 other analysts looking at the same stuff we're looking at.
Yeah.
We're looking at the same stuff,
Yeah, you're 100% right. But I tell you what it is. It's not the content that's in there. It's that there is content already put together in a very sandwiched, easy to digest, information tube that they can just force feed in a couple hours, as opposed to somebody like you or me or Gen X dividend investing, anybody else that has to go out there and put hours into investing and research. The information on this thing called the internet is endless. I mean, there are so many different charts and studies, but that takes time and that takes effort. People want it and they want it now. It's the American way. They want to click, they want to pay a little bit of money, and they want to have it now. I mean, we've even got to the point where our visas, you don't even have to swipe it. You just tap it now. You know what I mean? Because swiping is too hard. So it's
I think it's important for the discussion to draw a distinction between courses that are created, because I've helped support some of those courses, especially Ryan Scribner's, right? I did a few blocks on his early on when he had like 0 subscribers, like we're buds, but now he's over 500,000. So he's like a myth, a legend. He's not a real human being. You know what I mean? But there's a difference between offering a stock market course to get to people like in the manner that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Here's the problem I have with courses. Majority of people that buy them don't take them. They don't even go through lesson 1. We know that because on Teachable, you can go in and look at the data behind the scenes on the people that are purchasing the courses are not taking them. Now, I'm more of an advocate for that, as opposed to offering an exclusive group that you pay a monthly or a yearly fee to join, to think that you're going to get some sort of stock advantage, okay? Because there's nobody in this group that has an edge on anybody with regard to stock picking, okay? Usually stock picking is a fool's game, okay? This is another discussion that needs to be revolved around, okay? If you think that you're just going to stock pick your way to success, odds are against you, right? So you got to be kind of careful in selecting or becoming part of that, because here's the thing, you may get some value from it. Yes. Okay. But why wouldn't you just take that money and DCA that money for yourself? Pay yourself, man. That money goes out. That's hard dollars that could be invested, and they're going towards supporting a channel creator who does or doesn't need that level of support.
I think people are at that turning point though, when they say, it's very easy for you and I to say, hey, just dollar cost average. People don't even know what dollar cost averaging is. They're at the fork in the road that says, buy the course, dollar cost average. Well, what the hell is this? That's out. Got to buy the course. And you're not wrong though. And I can vibe with that, if there is a genuine course out there, a one-time fee that shows somebody basic investing 101, index investing, like for a decent, price that has valuable content, and it's not going to charge them for years on end, almost like a mutual fund manager would, then yes, I could totally vibe with that and say that would be worth the money, as long as it's not some astronomical amount for, $4,000, get into my, broad market investing group. And no, but yeah, totally a one-time costing. I could understand how something like that could totally be beneficial for somebody, but to say that somebody has better knowledge over somebody else to charge you every month, like, I think that's kind of crazy.
I think that's part of my problem too. And part of my point is, I would go out on a limb and say that with my experience, I could probably put something together that would be pretty special. Furthermore, I think I've had a few comments come through this week that have actually really touched me, man. It's like, wow, that's pretty legit. And like, if there are subscribers to the investing message and they don't relate with me, but let's say they relate with you, Jamie, or anybody else in this group, then great. If they turn them on to investing and get them excited about wealth building, then we're getting through to more people than just I or you or any of these individuals can get through to, And
I want to see another person on the live stream. I want to have another Steve number 2. Come on up.
No, I think Kyle was troubleshooting a little bit, but I think Kyle's working it through for sure. And he's welcome to pop back on here for sure. He's always welcome. I enjoy. He's just always bouncing around. He's jumped on live streams where he's run through the front door and he's listening to it. So I can't fault that guy's energy, man. It's pretty.
I'm pretty
awesome.
sure he does
really
like a cartwheel before he gets on. He does 20 jumping jacks. Ooh, let's go.
Sure. God, man.
Yeah, going back to single stock picking, have you seen how your investments for like your S&P 500 have done this year? I mean, it is hard to compete with that. You know, I was looking over my like my 401ks and stuff, and just passive investing, and I have to ask myself again, like, could I beat this if I wasn't invested in this right now? It would be pretty dang difficult. The market has just been on fire. Like,
well, you might with, let's say, the majority of your stocks, okay, and then you pick one dog, you pick a Boeing, and two airplanes fall out of the sky, and it's their fault, you know, and that's really the risk that you run when you're looking to play the single stock game. Is that, look at that example I picked. Look how quality of a company Boeing is, and it's not that you've made a bad investment. It's just that you picked a good company at the wrong time. And the diversification. So to answer your question, I've been able to observe, and you know that my transition in my portfolio has been a very deliberate one. I'm trying to keep my single stocks where they are, and I'm trying to move a little bit more passive as a base in the portfolio. So my biggest position, I declared it in the thread tonight, is VOO, okay? And just a little over $10,000. So relative to the total overall portfolio, it's not that huge, okay?
Yeah.
But it's been amazing to watch how it performs on even a day like today, you know, as opposed to some of those single stocks. I'm really taking a bath on Dow and DuPont, DePours, and you know, some of those material stocks I'm taking a bath on, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got a couple guys actually that have popped in here. Kyle with passive income has popped in here, and I've also got Bishop in here too. So
I'm gonna jet.
You got it. You got it, Jamie. Thank you so much, man, for popping on. I really appreciate it, man. It's legit. Thank you so much.
I'll catch you
take
later,
easy,
Ryan.
all right? You got it, man.
What's going on?
Hey, Kyle. How are you, man? How are you, Bishop?
Very well.
Nice. So I know Kyle with Passive Income Investor, and I'll just take a second. These folks that come on here, if they're channel creators and you're part of the community, definitely want to take a moment to kick over and help support their mission. Okay. So for the folks that are catching this live stream after the fact, man, you want to catch over. Kyle is a ball of energy, and I can't manufacture half the energy Kyle does. So don't expect that. I just rely on Kyle to bring that to the table. But Bishop, I don't know you. Thank you so much for coming on, man. If you'd be so kind as to just introduce yourself, talk about your investing journey a little bit. I'd love to freaking hear what you've got going on.
Yeah, and I'm a little tired this evening, so I'm going to take a sit back, and I'd love to hear your story as well, Bishop.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm here. This is the first time I'm listening to you live. I actually find an independent investor, I think yesterday, and I don't know for 2020. That's my goal, to invest in stocks. So honestly, I'm just here to say thank you that I found your YouTube, and I'm super new to the field. And so, yeah, I just got interested and bought few for stocks from Cash App. And I just signed up for E-Trade. So, yeah, that's my 2020 goal. So, yeah, I don't have much interest, but to say thank you very much. I'm following. I'm in Virginia, so I would like to meet you one day.
No problem.
2211 is my zip code. I'm hiding somewhere here.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
that's awesome. The connections that you can make through YouTube, man, that's one thing that I really can't express to this group enough. I've met people. I've got Terry and a group from New Zealand here in the. I'm just kind of breezing through the thread. I mean, Kyle, you're hailing from Canada, right?
Yeah, things are a lot different here. I'm listening to you guys, and I'm like, I wish that's how it worked here. Except we have better accounts. We still have better accounts, luckily.
Hey, Bishop, I want to ask you too, like, why invest?
So
I'll put you right on the spot, you know?
Yeah, I've been following a little bit this year, just within 10 days. And I see that is the way to go to make a living and retire early and sit back and enjoy passive income. So that'll be my 2020 goal that I set for myself. So I got a few. I've selected 30 stocks for now that I'm watching. $100 each from Cash App, and I'm just watching for the past 10 days. Eventually, I'm going to reduce to about 5 stocks or 7, but I'm still watching. I'm learning. So I've been scrolling through your YouTube independent, and so that's why I'm investing. I just want to be financially independent after some
Like
time.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're looking at it from a builder's perspective.
Mhm.
You're not going to know it all.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't think there's anybody in this community that would prescribe to that type of behavior. Honestly,
Mhm.
there's some simple philosophies to
Right.
prescribe to, and you can put those simple philosophies to work,
Mhm.
but you'll always learn and
Right.
you'll always evolve. And becoming a wealth builder is something that'll kind of be with you for the rest of your life. It really will. At least I hope that's part of the page that people take out of my playbook, is they can kind of see how passionate I am about it. And
Mhm.
that's one thing that when I catch different channels, I catch Kyle with passive income, you know, it means a lot to me. It's not necessarily how much the portfolio is at a certain, that's not what I prescribe to. A lot of people are like, wow, that's impressive, this and that. I'm more interested in what investing means to you,
Okay.
because people are going to prescribe to that and they're going to be like, wow, man, maybe I can make it a little bit more of a priority for me and my family
Mhm.
too. And I think once you do that, it's amazing. It can be higher on the priority list, but
Right.
quite frankly, it takes its place, because money in and of itself isn't something that should control you. It
Right.
should be the opposite. It should be
Mhm.
something that you can control.
Mhm.
And I think you've probably stepped into a much grander world, my friend. I thank you so much for making your way onto the channel. That's legit.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
You're-
very much. So I'll step back and listen to more.
that sounds great, man. Thanks, man.
Stay
Right.
awesome,
I'm,
Bishop.
I'm gonna give Kyle the floor, because you've been making some moves, and I'd like you to update the community on kind of where you're at and what your goals are and what you got rocking, because you got a lot.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's a lot or if I just make it seem like a lot more than it is, because it's all about being passive, right? Like you guys saying you have day job. That's kind of the point of it. Just because I have a little more time, I like sitting on the side here and just kind of getting deep into it, along with obviously the entire community here. I saw some interesting comments here, though, and I'll get back to that question in a second. I just laughed at this. What is it? Christian Gonzalez there says, "Does anybody have any big financial purchases and sense of situation before I lose it there?" Oh no, I own one. I don't know. That's did I miss the question already? It was really funny. The guy's like, "You know, buy some private jets for your family, or do anything with the money." But honestly, I think I just wanted to touch base on that because it's something I was thinking about recently, and it's just about being more generous. Like I've been so frugal for so long, and after a while, like you don't even want to give money just for the sake of like helping family, but just generally being more just generous when you're out and just when the occasion arises. Um, but on the own personal journey here, I just did a good update portfolio on my last video, and I'm still kind of shocked because my one tax-free savings account, which is what I wanted to bring up when I was listening to you guys talking about your U.S. accounts with your commission-free trades, is we have the TFSA, which I think I've mentioned last time when I was on here, which essentially is 100% tax-free money once the money's in the account, and you can utilize it as you please, 100% tax-free on capital gains. Excuse me, I'm still getting over a bit of a cold here. But yeah, I just realized that my gains in that account are absolutely absurd. It's been about 2.5 years, and I'm sitting at about 83%, give or take, just over it's about 35%. And I think it's a lot of luck because I'm still not trying to let my ego get to that aspect of it. But the account's done incredibly well, and I'm just kind of like celebrating a little bit, trying to enjoy it, but not let it get too much to my head,
Okay, so couple things with that. There's an infinite number of ways to succeed in the stock market. Second of all, thank you for coming on and telling folks, because people need to understand. There was already a comment in tonight's live stream about investing being gambling. I tell you what, man, I've played blackjack. I've been in a lot of hell. I was married in Las Vegas. You know what I'm saying? But here's the thing. Like, I've never ever got a hold of something in my life like investing that I can win the majority of the time. And nothing like investing allows you to control your hand. Okay. What I mean is if you're down in a position, you don't have to cash in, you know, you can hold true, you can average down, you can do all kinds of good stuff. If you catch a good winner, I'm not really sure if your profile is a little bit more aggressive, Kyle, if what little bit I've got to know you, you know, but
Yeah, I'm just because it's the big balance at my age, right? Just trying to find the risk appropriated, because every time I start gearing toward ETFs, I keep coming back to understanding that I'm still young enough that it's trying to find that risk balance. So I'm holding about 10% of position. It varies between 5 and 10%, but I only hold 12 stocks. Yeah, your stream's killing it, brother. You're killing it tonight.
it only
Uh,
took 76 live streams to get to 100, Kyle, right? I was doing this when nobody was doing it. Okay, so
yeah,
maybe a
I
little
think
bit of trailblazing,
I
maybe a
think
little
it's
bit of
brilliant. You do help a lot of people, man, and it's so appreciated, because like I think a lot of us started by finding people on YouTube, and it's crazy how fast that becomes life changing. But I guess it's still a good question. Back to that point, if you have any, because I don't know how old were you when you started investing again?
I think my first mutual fund I probably purchased at probably 18, 19,
Okay, so yeah,
because
you're
my first job was a commercial fisherman in Alaska, right? So my first
yeah,
check for a summer job was boom, 12 grand. So 12 grand for a summer job when I was growing up was like unheard of. It was like, dude, I'm rich, and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot that funny little thing called taxes. Oh yeah, because Uncle Sam really likes those big checks that are paid like that. But
are
that
you?
I came
Are,
back and invested all in mutual funds and then
yeah.
had to liquidate the whole thing because I
Oh
was
wow.
over levered. I was young and stupid. I didn't have anything to live off of,
Yeah.
trying to go to college and work in Alaska and fish and do that thing. And I really didn't have any. I knew I wanted to get ahead, and that, quite frankly, my mentality is what's carried me through. But man, I've made some stupid mistakes. So 18, 19. But when I first started getting serious, I was about Steve's age, the earlier visitor, man, in my early
Yeah.
30s. Seriously,
So when you
early 30s.
started in your early 30s, did you strictly start focusing on ETFs? Were you looking at a few other like diversified mutual funds? Because I still like obviously it comes into the play the stock market being amazing too, but it's just I look at the gains I've had over the last 5 years, and it's been great. And I feel terrible for people that have missed out on it, considering no one knows how long this goes on for. But it's just
Yeah,
finding that risk associated, right? Because when you're buying these big companies, you're getting a crazy amount of diversification, like even globally with certain companies or most of them that are sitting on the S&P, right? Which people keep
real.
forgetting. So I mean, it's like why necessarily, especially at my age, obviously to a degree, would you want to invest say even 50% of your portfolio in like an S&P 500 when you can just own, maybe 20% of it and then just own Apple and Microsoft and maybe, a few of the top tens and just walk away for the
Yeah,
next decade. But I'm still always playing that game of, is it going to hinder me in the future here when the
you're
market dips like it did in 2018? I could see a much larger drop, right? Mind you, I'm here for
so
dividends, but it's just
what you're talking about deliberating in your head is so key for anybody that's listening to this, because you're trying to actively define your tolerance to the market. What type of investor do you want to be? So right now I'm about a 25% passive, 75% stock. So split it up that way in quarters. That's the easiest way. Either you're going to be a 25 75 50 50 or a 75 25 investor. That's the easiest way to think about it. Or you go 100% extreme on either end. 100% passive, 100% active, 100% stock portfolio, right? Here's the thing. The amount of passive investing products that you introduce into your portfolio should be indicative of your acknowledgement to how important that is to at least have that percentage of money to guaranteed to match the market, because it's really going to be on the downside that you're going to protect your portfolio where you're diversified and you've got that base. You're going to guarantee yourself. I always call it the barometer of the market. So you've always got that chunk in there that's meeting the market.
yeah. Just to hop into the comment section here again to segue a little bit, just because I
Do it.
noticed a lot of us have Canadian investors, and I've realized even when I watch a subset of even larger YouTubes, a lot of Canadians are always popping on, and I've noticed there's a lot of people going on about the Roth IRA, and I'm just curious to your Your thoughts on the disadvantages, just so I can understand it a little bit better as well, and then it'll refresh me, and then maybe I can clarify some of the tax advantaged accounts we have here. Just specifically with the Roth IRA, because it's a lot more similar to a TFSA. So maybe we'll just compare those two.
It is. Yeah.
But there's some disadvantage on the tax end, is there not? When you withdraw?
Especially, I would say the biggest disadvantage, I think, are there for those higher income earners right up against that $130,000 cap. Okay, so if you're a higher income earner and you need to try to reduce some of that taxable income, a traditional might work for you. Okay, to where you're going to get to deduct some of that, contributing to a traditional. Where a Roth, you're paying the tax up front, okay, and then contributing those dollars to grow. And a lot of people don't like the $6,000 cap, okay? My realistic approach to it is that there's a lot of people who don't have that $6,000 to even start to think about having surplus capital to go to a taxable broker. So why not do the 6 to a Roth, and then any surplus capital you can do to a taxable?
When you say 6 to a Roth, can you just clarify that? What do you mean? Is there a cap by year and you can only put in that cap, or is there already like a base limit and then you build off of it? Just to clarify a little bit, sorry.
Yeah, so within your brokerage account, mine is Merrill specifically, it's going to give you kind of like a temperature gauge from 0 to 6,000. And it's going to actually show you what you have for 2019 contributions and 2020 contributions, which we just came eligible for 10 days ago, right?
So it does carry over though, right? So
it depends. Right now, so had I not contributed for 2019 back on January 1 of 2019, then I could still contribute for 2019 up until the tax deadline, which is around April 16th, 17th. I don't believe it's the 15th, but that's the overlap period, those 4 months from January 1 until the tax deadline, where you can contribute for the previous year's contribution as long as you haven't maxed them out. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So
so with the tax-free savings account, and maybe I'll tell you my little strategy that I'm pulling off in case I haven't got too much into it with you recently with my other RSP, which is the Register Retirement Savings Plan. But with the tax-free account here, with the similarities anyways, but we have, I think the limit right now is 69,500 if you haven't ever contributed up to that point, and then they're still obviously adding the 6,000 a year in similarity. But that's my dead favorite account of all time because it's just tax-free income. The dividends, as soon as they come in, it's just that backup like wallet that it's always filling. So if one day you need it, you just pull it out. There's no questions asked, and it doesn't change your income bracket. But with my plan with my RRSP account, which is one that I've had a lot of controversy over because in Canada here, people have a really hard time understanding how to grasp how an RRSP works because it's just to defer the current income to a later date. And you're not supposed to touch it until you're 65, but you can to an extent. Because if you pull out anything over 5,000, you get taxed way too much on. But if you were to just say pull out 5,000 of it, you'd be paying a 50, or I think it starts at like a 10% penalty tax, which isn't terrible. It's like 10 or 50. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head if that's when it goes up. But either way, the way I've been looking at it is last year I ended up paying about $10,000 in taxes. This year I've completely eliminated that by putting adding at least, I think it was just under $20,000 to the RSP, which is just almost eliminated my taxes. And luckily the stocks I bought have been doing, in the recent time here ridiculously well. So at some point, depending on only when I have a lower income, so I'm not getting taxed twice, I'd probably consider drawing against it to start putting it toward a regular account or using it to fully, if I don't have any money that year, say I could put it toward the tax-free savings account because you're just paying the tax on the deferred income anyways. It carries over into another year too when you can start reutilizing it. But I've argued with a lot of people about it because a lot of people keep forgetting that if you ever want to pull that money out, it counts towards your income. But isn't the Roth the same as an RSP in Canada? Or no, I think the 401k, I know there's some different similarities there, but so I'm just reading some of the comments here.
Yeah, I thought they were really similar. What little bit I've had in engagement, there's the second most majority of the group that tune into the channel are from Canada. And I've talked directly with a lot of investors from Canada, and that was the impression that I get. But I don't want to speak, with second nature info. But I've heard they're very similar in nature. But I'm trying to think outside the box to try to identify the you know the negatives of the Roth when there's so many benefits. See, I envision myself when I'm 59 and a half having guaranteed myself my uh, my tax bracket is zero.
Yeah.
So, you know,
No, that's some interesting stuff. I'm trying to think of
mhm.
something fun we could talk about here because I know the TFSA and the RSP. If you want to talk about eyes glazing over at the table, and I'm one of the guys that'll get way too heated about the conversation because people usually, if they don't know something, they just go blank and say it's gambling, right? That's a common one from the family for sure.
For sure.
I'm just trying to see if anybody out here got some interesting questions. Um, I know Matt's floating in the conversation still. I told Matt to
Yes.
pop on here, and I ended up popping on instead.
Dude, we had fun last week was fun.
Yeah, I
I'm
caught
telling you
some of
what.
it.
Now I watched it afterwards and I was like, dang, man, it was awesome.
I think Matt really
Awesome.
underplays himself, man. Matt's a crusher. The guy could already be doing conferences and stuff like that and getting up and doing chats. For where he sits at his age, he's an incredible dude, hardworking guy.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh,
Yeah, I concur. I said all that live, I think, last week for sure. Do you prefer to invest in Canadian stocks or do you invest in some US stocks or both? What do you do, man?
Absolutely hate Canadian stocks. Have for a while. I've done okay with them, but the rate of return is absolutely brutal considering I've been buying individual, mostly financial sectors. My favorite utility was one of the first stocks I bought, which was Canadian. In the beginning, I was heavy Canadian, but back then things were quite a bit different when I got investing. But now I'm pretty much U.S. focused. We get the 15% withholding tax on the dividends, mind you, on the border conversion there. But at the same time, that's why you want to use those tax advantage accounts. So you only pay that tax once. And at this rate, if you look at the Canadian dollars, the main thing that I've been focusing on why I keep heading to USDs and US stocks is just because if you look at the 5-year CAD, it is dropped compared to the USD by like 20. I think the conversion's almost 31 cents to the dollar, so it's terrible. So I mean, if you just had a lot of your wealth, you even diversified to an extent in USDs, it really would have cushioned that blow because I don't think most people in Canada realize that globally they've lost almost 20 or 30% of their value without even being invested in the stock market, which took me a little while to learn. But yeah, the Canadian markets, man, we've had a lot of bad luck. I mean, when Trudeau got voted in, I don't want to get it too political, but it just caused a lot of controversy, and we lost a lot of business in the oil business out west, and it took a lot of it to the U.S. We lost billions of dollars. We've had our auto parts sector falling apart here. A lot of the GM crashing. They're closing plants now, and it's just not that the Canadian economy is slowing down, but if you look at the GDP, basically, I think it's somewhere around. And I don't want to be throwing numbers out, but it's something like 70% of our GDP is based on services today. And it used to be a big combination of oil and auto parts, but now it's crazy how much services have taken over Canada. So the landscape here is rocky, in my opinion. Mind you, there are individual stocks that you could have done great with, like Air Canada. There's quite a few that have bunched out. We have Shopify, obviously, but I'm finding it's more of these growth stocks. I did well with Canopy Growth Corp, which is another Canadian stock. But I mean, why even bother when you can buy something like an Apple or Microsoft? Because the company scale in the U.S. is beyond what we have here as well.
I see.
So I mean, the thing too is our accounts just, oh man, it's just the fees, the fees. I don't even want to start counting how much I've been paying, but they're going to be taking a good healthy couple percent probably off my portfolio by the time I'm
So
done.
when are you planning on moving to the States, man?
Oh my goodness, my
Is
girlfriend
Canada's home then, right? You're staying there forever, right?
She would not want to have that chat. She's not not that she's not the biggest fan of the States, but it's crazy. I
Man,
enjoy the States, me personally. I've gone all over the States. I'd rather visit
grows
just
on you.
because of the perks. Yeah, and I also like the fact that most of the cities in the States are built like around the airports. The problem in Canada is everything's far away. You're always, even in the city, you're an hour away from the city. It's terrible. Whereas within I think I went to last year, I was in Vegas for a bit. I went to San Diego for the StockTwits conference, and it just blew my mind how every time I go to these places, it's like you just boom, get an Uber, you're there in 20, 30 minutes. Here you get off the airport, it takes a little bit longer than that, unfortunately. But yeah, no, I don't. I keep debating on trying to find some more work down there. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but after this year, I got to get out of here for winter, man, because that's how I have all this free time to do a lot of this YouTube stuff. Winter is a slow season for me in my job. I don't think I've told you too much about my job. Have I talked a little bit, doing the magic stuff and kind of the build up?
A little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, the Vegas trip was just to see some of those magicians, but yeah, man, I've been doing magic almost full time for like 10 years. I've worked a lot with the production industry and doing some of the DJ stuff for a while, which is an interesting take, which is a good reminder that I think everybody should try and go into self business, because if you can understand a market of something, it's crazy to see how fast a business can grow. I parted ways with parts of it, but at the same time, like, I haven't had to work what I would call, you're always working for somebody, but to have to show up to a 9 to 5 is something I don't think I've done in probably the last 7 or 8 years. It's kind of blown my mind, really, because every day I'm on edge about, when is that day come around?
How old are you?
I am 27, almost 28.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and again, it doesn't come to the fact that I make a lot of money doing my job, but in my mind, with what I did, I was able to work 2 or 3 days a week, make somewhere between 30 and 40,000 a year, and pretty much have 5 days a week to almost just be creative, which has led me down a lot of different avenues. But yeah, it's just weird how you got. Obviously, it came down to meeting a lot of the right people. Obviously, I've always been, I think, a bit of an older soul, because most of my friends that I hang out with are usually about 20 or even 30 years older than I am.
Nice.
But I managed to learn an incredible amount. And I think there's a term one of my friends used to say when I was younger, and it's kind of skip the BS and come out on top, because the problem is almost everything's been done and everybody almost wants to recreate the wheel and learn for themselves. Which is very dumb considering. And I used to, when I was a kid, I think every teenager does that. They think they know it all and they want to do it for themselves, until you realize, like, you're an idiot. You could have cut your time and your efficiency down by, hundreds of percent if you just listened or went and mentored the right guy. And luckily, YouTube has been able to do that, because there's nothing better than sitting in the same room with Warren Buffett and, getting the incredible advice you can get. Did you go down that route of, for the first year or two of your investing, just watching nothing but all these crazy big investors do their portfolios and stuff, and copy them, and then watch them screw up on some aspects and learn that we're all kind of the same?
Gosh, it's a good question, but I want to hit this. Cherie hit this up.
Oh yeah, sorry.
So the American funds is what I owned with Edward Jones, and they're mutual funds. They're good funds. They return very well, but the expense ratio was crazy. And I always tell the story about getting those statements back during an up year and actually being down in my accounts owning those mutual funds because they were so expensive. And then come to find out, understanding more about the financial planning landscape and understanding that the planner got a pretty large incentive for selling those products exclusively through Edward Jones. And I'm not an advocate of mutual funds anymore. I just think the statistics are such that if you're going to go in there and put your hands in those accounts and actively manage it, there's more potential to underperform the market. So I would certainly look to opt for more of a passive option. I think index funds are a much better option in that they're passively managed. They do have to keep up with the NAV. So there is some buying and selling to try to mimic the index, the underlying index, right? That they're trying to basically mirror, but it's passively managed as opposed to trying to get too cute with it and paying a higher than average expense. I mean, I've seen some mutual funds that are 1.5. You're surrendering 1.5. You're trying to get an 8 to 10% rate of return, and you're giving back 1.5 right off the top. That's really expensive, and over time, that can be really detrimental to owning those funds.
I think I got a quick question for you as well on the banks over there, because something that I've always been a little disgusted by is how the banks try and suck you into their funds by offering. Well, here in Canada, they offer you those free trades on our specific, mutual ETFs, and I always find that you look hard enough into them, and the fees behind them are usually absurd, because anything over 0.5% to me is crazy when the Vanguard is 0.05%, and I just remember my uncle, man. He came over here and I was trying to help him out. I ended up directing him to financial investors that are doing it for him because I couldn't get him on the path of doing it himself. But when I looked over his last 5 years, which was fortunate for him to let me show this to me, and his trading statements were insane. These people were, trading Microsoft when it was at like $36, and these like even back then, those companies were still almost, the crazy top S&P stocks, and they traded in and out of these things like through multiple times over 6 to 12 months. And I'm sitting here looking at the amount of trade data, and I'm like, what are these people doing? I'm like, I just imagine the money that those shares after in Microsoft could have been worth today if he just if they just told them, look, we're not going to trade for you, we're just going to hold these great companies, and we'll ride through the volatile moments. But it's man, it kills me inside so much.
And that's where I think, Kyle, when you're talking about the single stock, it's fair to acknowledge that it's almost planned failure when you're justifying entering into a mutual fund like that and surrendering that type of fee right off the top, as opposed to the beauty of single stock investing, whether it be you're going for the growth or you're going for the growth and income or the pure play dividend. Cost of ownership is zero, quite frankly. The only thing that is going to cost you is a little bit of discipline, and that's it.
That's hard though, man. The psychology of investing, it took me the first 3 years to get a grip on myself. Especially sorry, I'm just going to throw in it's admitting you're wrong is the hard part, and actually accepting it at some point. Sorry, go with what you were going to say there.
I was just going to say holding stock is the hardest, easiest thing that you can do.
Yeah.
And it's something that very few people, especially stocks like Amazon, the higher growth. And that's why if you can glean a little bit why I separated the growth away from my dividend portfolio, that was the reason. It was to keep it away from its worst enemy, me. Because on M1 Finance, right, it's almost sheltered a little bit. Like, how much damage you're going to do, especially in a taxable account, which that is. So me taking the stab at those and knowing that I at least have to get them to the long-term capital gain stage and taking them in the way that I have, it's going to allow me to buffer the volatility because I don't really own that much dollar amount in them, but I'm still exposed to them.
Yeah.
So, the $5,000 that I've got spread over those 12 names, they've done quite well, even though there's partial shares in each of those, larger companies, Booking, Google, and Amazon. So
I'm starting to get the way I'm trying to focus my portfolio going forward, just because I'm fairly happy with the dividends and the risk that I'm associated to. I'm trying to stick within the S&P top 10 to an extent because I'm finding I always just keep going back to that reminder of that argument that I had with one of the first people I met on YouTube about just buying 50% index funds and then just Apple and Microsoft walk away, you'll be fine. And I always have that bit of an argument, but I'm trying to stick to the S&P top 10. I've really loaded the boat on Johnson & Johnson, and Apple, Microsoft now make up 31% of my portfolio, I think, combined, which is a good feeling because I'd like to have that. I feel like those are core companies that'll keep me stable, whereas the other ones are higher yielding dividend, not nearly as much growth behind them. Some of them, it's weird. It's like a gamble almost because like they look like they should do well, but you always have the two or three that are kind of just lingering behind. But I mean, you can't complain the way these markets are anyways. It makes the psychology stupid. What do you actually think about what I would call the dumb money just flooding into the markets, or God knows where it's coming from, because we're talking about trillions of dollars, and how this plays out? Because I've watched so many videos, and I'm not talking about crashes because I don't really consider them to be an influence in my investing, but watching these really fascinating videos on these actually really intellectually thought out, almost like puzzle pieces of what might be a recession in either like student loans, any kind of credit cycles, and even in the auto loan sector, which is exploding. There's just so many different aspects, even like Vanguard index bubbles, because dumb money is flooding into them, because everyone like you and myself always suggest if you don't know what you're doing and you want to do it passively, just buy the index. So I mean, it also drives up all these stocks that might not be nearly as good either. So it's weird where we sit, but I'm always reminded of what Janet Yellen, if I'm not slandering that, said about after 08 there, that we'll never see another financial crisis like 08. I think people maybe it's just people are underestimating how severe '08 was. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure if
It was severe.
yeah,
I
because they keep.
stayed invested through it. It was the best thing that I ever did for sure. But it's a very core question. I think there is a lot of money flooding into the market right now, which is pretty typical of the start of, if not in the euphoric stage of the stock market. Seen some metrics that they're trying to justify this valuation. I think it's run up pretty far, pretty fast, in my opinion. So I see both sides of the coin. But here's the thing. My question for each of those people who are, like you say, are rushing into the market: are you evaluating your risk? If you're long term and you're able to weather any downturn that the market throws at you, then is your decision to invest now wrong? Of course not. But if there's any chance of, by nature of your investing now with the market in its current condition, that you're just going to panic yourself out of it, that's the deliberation you have to go through now. I don't want, the last thing I want to see is anybody get hurt, honestly. But why invest? It's the first thing I asked tonight. I asked Bishop. It's one thing that I really, have you asked yourself that question? It's super important. Are you willing to take that long approach? If you're 25 years old or 30 or whatever, you've got a long-term horizon. There are defensive tools that you can deploy. Use some scale. If you're sitting on $50,000 or $10,000, the money doesn't matter. It's that you're entering the right amount of exposure for the time that you're entering that. Because not being an investor is that's an option, but is it a feasible one? And that's the hard question. You've got the luxury of sitting back and asking all these questions. The stock market doesn't have to be this riddle, The stock market's been around for a number of decades, and it will continue to be around for decades. The question is always, what is the exposure limit? What is the condition of your debt? What is the condition of your safety buffer in way of savings account? What, if any, do you have in way of some alternative investments? Precious metals, fine art, hell, baseball cards, for crying out loud. Think outside the box. Are you a collector? Or are you just investing to get that 20% and then hope to sell it with an open-ended type of expectation? Or I would go so far as to say maybe an unrealistic expectation about what the stock market can render. I mean, are you looking to render it over 6 months? Come on, man. You can't ask the stock market to render performance that it's not capable of rendering. It doesn't work that way. You have to expect the unexpected. So for new investors, are you investing to get another 31% out of the S&P 500? I would invest now taking the contrary view and saying, what if in 2020 during this presidential election cycle, we take a haircut of 30 or 40%? Are you going to be comfortable with the amount of capital that you expose to the market now and introduce that money to a severe downturn? Are you positioned to take advantage of that downturn? Are you positioned to weather that? Are you mentally tough enough? These new investors that are getting up, are they, it's easier to say, oh yeah, I could take that 10 grand, drop it on the market now and see it turn into 6,500, over a couple weeks, because it goes down a hell of a lot faster than it goes up. And you'll see, Kyle, you'll see this YouTube community change. You'll see the landscape change. You will have people crawling out from every cave, every rock, and throwing rocks at every investor that ever said to invest a red cent in the stock market. And no, that's not the case,
I think if you're picking individual stocks, you experience that all the time anyways, because I think most of
You
us
do.
are obviously value investors, and if you're buying a value stock, you're going against the grain, and I've done it on a repetitive basis. But I love arguing about it, to be honest. I feel like I learn stuff because it also makes me second guess what I'm saying, and it usually makes me go back and you re-look into stuff. Lydia's awesome. I saw her in the comment section there. I still got to catch up with her. She kind of hopped on my live stream and I lost her, and I wasn't able to get her back. But I haven't done some live stream in a little bit, been pretty busy here. So I haven't hopped on the stream.
It's just, I don't know how important that question is, Kyle, for you to ask, because you're not the only one asking it. And it's a deliberation that we all go through. It's just that, what if my portfolio takes a haircut? Am I prepared to see both of my $100,000 portfolios turn into 65,000 overnight? Yes, I am.
Think, yeah,
yes, I am.
It's an easy question for somebody that definitely has the experience in the market, because somebody new that hasn't experienced equity change in value definitely isn't going to be able to, stabilize
Bingo.
any kind of real movements.
Yep.
Because I watched my brother go through it. We got him in the markets for a little bit, and as soon as he saw it go down, he didn't see any real point to it until I explained to him the value of growth and dividends and being just stable with it. But for myself, man, it's just the constant question of just risk, because at some point or another we're all investing. I think it's not just a stock market question as much as it is a life question, because the same thing I always tell anybody going to school is it just, if you're taking the risk of dumping 5 years into an education and all that time and missing out on making that money while you're in there and just all that stuff that builds up just to work at a company I'm buying into, I mean, that's just as much risk. There's risk in everything. I mean, it's I'm kind of broadenizing that, or making it more broad, but I think people underlook the aspect of you're taking risk in life, whether you're showing up to a job every day you're relying on or not.
Why is it that we justify going and buying a $50,000 vehicle that's going to depreciate over 5 years and it's worth close to nothing? Why is it that that's so politically acceptable? And
Buddy,
investing in the stock, why?
I have never bought. I've been through more than 5 cars in my life already, and I can equate that no matter how hard I try and explain it to my friends that buy brand new trucks for 45K a year, making maybe 80K a year income before taxes, I can never get across it to them, because they the way that he kept telling me is like, look at how many cars you're going through though, and I'm like, but for the amount of driving I'm doing, I would look at the equity loss to be so much more severe. And I tried to explain to him his equity loss in his truck over a shorter period of time has been more than the value of what my car's worth altogether anyways. And man, no matter, it's the argument of a lifetime. I swear I gave up on, leading a horse to water and trying to make it drink. That car conversation really touches close to me. But yeah, never owned a new car in my life, man. My parents have never owned a new car in their life. I don't. Good thing that the close knit people I have around me are kind of on that page, because it makes me cringe.
Well, another thing too, I don't want to. I will premise my statement there. I'm allowed to be a little bit more aggressive in my stock posture with regard to my pension and with regard to my optional retirement. Excuse me, my employer sponsored, like a 401k program. It's the thrift savings plan. I don't know if you're familiar with that down here, but it's for government employees. So I've got a couple layers there of income later on in life. So that kind of puts me at ease a little bit, being a little bit more heavily weighted toward the stock portfolio. So when I say that I could take a 40% haircut, I mean that, because I've already went through the deliberation of understanding that I'm going to have some money there. And I'm also very, very aware that, look, my wife is not from the US. She's from Europe, Czech Republic to be specific. So it's interesting when we go over there and most people that I speak with, at least in my assessment, talking to people, don't invest. Furthermore, to just get a savings account, you're paying a monthly fee just to have that account.
Yeah.
So this investing opportunity, as different as it may be for you in Canada compared to the US, et cetera, and when we start to broaden our understanding of what other countries can and can't do, it's a luxury. It is a luxury. It's not a right. It's not something that you're guaranteed to get involved with and you're going to automatically ride off into the sunset. I don't talk like that. I don't think like that. But I think a lot of people have some sort of expectation that is more pie in the sky than in touch with reality. I do.
I would agree. I would totally agree. And I don't think it really kicks in until you've experienced any kind of severe downside. Luckily, I was able to stick through the first year of my investing, because my portfolio, I'm not sure if I mentioned, but it took that 40% haircut. And that was when the market was still doing well. So, I mean, I was definitely not doing the right kind of strategy back then. But I've experienced it time again. I've seen back in 2018, my portfolio took a 25% haircut. But I don't look at it that on that aspect, because I think that comes back to, again, you're only focused on growing at that bottom line number. Because as much as I always try and drive in viewers by saying, oh, look, portfolio value, here's what I'm doing with it, it's definitely more about the dividends, right? And making sure they're reliable, because that gives you that comfort. But I have no backup, man. In my mind, I am 100% in on what I'm doing, aside from, like, I don't invest in gold. I don't want any asset that I have that's going to weigh me down. I just want,
it will.
I'm
Yeah.
100%. It's not necessarily the best thing, but I'm 100% all in on the internet right now. Like between the online businesses that we're doing and the YouTube and the stock market, and I obviously have my performance job too, but right now all of my investments to me are just my job, and then all of these assets that I'm just building that are passive, 100% off my phone. If I had to jump ship tomorrow, it's safe, it's self-sufficient, and I can
Yeah.
access it from anywhere in the world. To me, that's so liberating in the aspect that I think people, and again, I don't want to get too much on the topic of working outside of the stock market, but I think it's always wise to take your tools that you learn here or from real estate and just try and apply it to everyday life, and just so you can see opportunities as they arise and take advantage of them, because that's where real money gets made. I mean, real money gets made on business, right? Building asset equity and cash flowing, building revenues, even if it's small. Even if it's small.
I'll take a moment and just say, man, when I was your age, I didn't have the type of money that you're declaring put away. So I definitely commend that. I really do. And I want people to come to your message or mine or anybody else and look at that and say, holy man, that guy did this. I can do it too. Like, look at what this person doesn't have to say anything, because here's the thing with that type of portfolio, all you really have to do over the course of your life is lean on it. What I mean
Yeah.
by that is you've kind of got that first 10, especially the first six-figure mark. I mean, I just hit it. I mean, I'm building two portfolios simultaneously, but you realize what class you're in of having that much invested capital. Give yourself a break, man. That's pretty awesome.
It comes at a cost, obviously, but I'm a workaholic. Me and Matt had a deep conversation about, I think it was a book that he read where he was talking about, just there's a certain kind of people that are always constantly just, running to the extent where they have to conflict with other people and outperform them. But luckily, this kind of atmosphere definitely kind of gets rid of the competitive nature of it and more of the philosophies behind it to follow as just general life morals that'll point you in the right moral compass direction. But if it wasn't for this community, still, I can't say how grateful I am for people like yourself and just the early day YouTube community there, because it definitely has changed
I,
my life.
I have to be kind of careful too. Like I'm just your friend through YouTube. You know what I'm saying? So when I offer those like constructive compliments, I'm really trying to say like, man, if I was in your shoes, because if at 28, if somebody said that to me, I don't know if I would have the perspective enough to receive it, to be like, wow, he's right, which I am. I'm right. That's a lot of capital, man. So it's something that you should be
It's
proud
hard to
of,
grasp
man.
because I am proud of it, but it's just I don't know if it comes back to the conversation of how much motivation do you have to get to where you want to go and what your goals are.
Exactly.
It really is the challenge of I'm always looking at the next stage and not what I've done. So I definitely do not take it for granted, but I don't look at it as much of an achievement as I probably should.
Do you think
Because
100 grand is a lot of money?
I absolutely think it's a lot of money because I worked for it. I worked
I
every
don't.
bloody hour for it. I
So
did the homework.
yeah, I touched
I
on this earlier on before you kicked on. And when you talk about like your goals and your dreams, my dream isn't to stop at 100 grand.
Yeah,
My dreams are to retire financially independent. My dreams are to build a home and have the means to do so. If I could do that, I would be I'm a happy man now, but these are just my dreams and goals. Am I going to
yeah,
do that with $100,000? So when I say that, I say it tongue in cheek, in that in accordance with my goals, no, I'm not done. I'm still hungry. I still look at it in the same manner that I did when it was 10,000. It's a growing, evolving portfolio that I'm going to continue to monitor and work and do whatever I can do to fund it and make it get to where I want it to go.
and
So
don't you think it's more of the consequence as well of just the right philosophy aspect of it? Because the first, like you said, the first 10 grand and getting to those
discipline.
points are huge milestones, but after a while, it just seems like an accidental consequence of just pointing
Yeah.
yourself in the right direction. Because
Yes.
some guy asked me on, I think on my, I can't remember who asked the question about, what is it like to just get to that 100K, and it must be exciting. And it's like, honestly, I didn't even blink twice at it. I didn't even care. And I've noticed some people, I think it's important to take a breath and celebrate it for sure, but I definitely did not. After the first 20, 30K, it just, you stop caring, and it just becomes a blend of, I like learning, I like growing the stock portfolio. And
I thought the 20, 30, 40, 50, that was kind of like the no man's land for me. Like, this is like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm funding this. It doesn't really seem to be moving too much, and I don't really remember how I got from 10 to 100. It's just
it
like,
happens so fast. It really does. I think people underestimate it.
it does. And when you're looking at it as much as I do, that's to my detriment, because you expect, again, more out of your portfolio or the market as a whole, than what it can render day to day. Day to day
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Neither does month to month. Neither does year to year. To be quite honest with you, in the grand scheme of things, when you start to chunk these times, years together of invested in the market, that's where you really start to notice the difference. If you're doing the right thing, if you're funding it aggressively, and staying disciplined in your spending, I think that's the key for me, is the discipline, making it a priority. Yeah.
Now you're probably coming from a different perspective too, right? Because you obviously, you have a house and a family, so your happiness priorities might be a little different as well, right? Because I'm kind of, I have a
It's a good
girlfriend, but
it's a good
the time I
question,
have is different.
but you said something a couple weeks ago when we were talking, and I lived with my mom and dad in my early 20s. In that time that I was going back and forth to college, to Alaska, fishing, etc., I didn't have a home. I didn't. And when I say disciplined, man, could I go out and buy a home right now, tomorrow? Yeah. If I think I would go out on a limb and say that if a lot of people were working with the money that I have put away, it wouldn't even be a decision. For me, it was a deliberation not to buy. I actually
Yeah.
live in an apartment.
Oh,
And
really?
absolutely. Those are the types of decisions that you have to understand. Like, when you just tune in and you say, wow, this guy's working with this, he must be extremely successful. Yeah, well, success is relative. I've made a lot of
Yeah.
those decisions day to day, discipline in budgeting, etc. But when it comes to, I've owned two homes in my life, and both of those homes I actually got a little bit lucky with, made a little bit of money. So those little bit of surplus capitals that we were able to get, I've leveraged that little inject of money. That's why I talk about the tax return in the way that I do, because for a lot of people, that's that small inject of capital that they can put to work. So I've taken that little bit of profit and put that to work. So now I moved to an area where the housing, I think, is a little bit pricey. So yeah,
Yeah.
we made the decision to opt out of that and not put new capital to risk, tie it up in a home. So we're
See,
continuing to do what we do.
I want to say too that I think it comes down to a lot of circumstance, because at least I've been smart enough to figure out what my friends clearly have not, which is the difficulty of trying to live in Canada with the rate what housing costs in the first place. I've watched a lot of real estate channels out there. Like, I'm sure people watch maybe like Graham Stephan, Meet Kevin, Concrete, or it's
Yeah,
become Ben Malla now. And
yeah,
Ben
I
Malla
like Meet
came up.
Kevin.
Yeah, he came up to Toronto, and every time Canadian callers call him in, like, he just keeps going on about, I don't know how you guys invest there. The leverage is so high, and you can't afford to live in Toronto and making less than $70,000 a year. So the problem that I find here, for where I'm specifically living under my circumstances, is to even get to a level where you can get ahead, you have to be extremely frugal if you do expect to, one day you'd even live on your own to a half decent middle class kind of lifestyle where at least things are decent. Because even basement apartments here sometimes cost up to like $1,500-$1,700 a month. You're talking condos downtown Toronto, they're $2,300-$2,400 a month. Even with
You
the
can't get
conversion to
ahead.
US, it's insane. And that's why, like, people here don't, because I always kind of frown upon the fact that I'm living at home with my parents, because the whole Dave Ramsey community and just the way you hear about it. But at the
Yeah.
same time, when you look at the circumstances of how much, if you were to move out here at 19 or 20 or right out of college, like, if you even had student loans and then try and do it, like, you're putting your financial goals and any chance of having a decent retirement set ahead till you're at least in your mid 30s or 40s.
Yeah.
It's staggering what's going on here with just what real estate's done. And then it comes back to the point of the great divide between the rich and the poor that's ever expanding. And if you're not on the side of the rich of owning any kind of assets like businesses, stocks, or building, assets, you're kind of left in the dust. And it's just, I feel bad because even with other people that are getting into the markets, I feel bad that they've missed out on what's happened over the last decade. It makes me feel really sad inside that they've missed out on something that, with just a hint of knowledge, could have severely changed the outlook they could have had. And even today, this is the same story, right? But you keep trying to send the message to the people that want to listen, obviously.
Pretty much. Life's going to happen one time, and the what if I would have done this, what if I would, that's no way to live either. If you had the opportunity to just live a perfect life, I guess you'd never face any adversity, I guess.
Yeah,
But
it's a good thing to touch base on is the people that always say, well, look at your life. I don't want to live like that because I want to enjoy things. I want to go out and I want to do this other kind of stuff. And
I had a colleague in New York City who drove a BMW i8, and he made good money. Didn't have 2 cents in the bank, spent it all, blew it all straight up. And he didn't own the i8. He leased it, a couple $1,000 a month. Why not? You only live once. You only live once. Every time I hear that, man, I think about that philosophy, and it's like, what an opportunity to set yourself up to reflect on your life and regret that type of mentality. Like, I'm having fun now. I don't think I'm missing out on anything by not driving an i8.
I think it's the way people look at money and enjoyment, obviously, too, right? Because I look at the freedom of, I remember Bill Burr, that comedian, saying, he's like, the day you're free, the day you can just get up and go to the movies with your wife when you want, or the day you can just get up and go on a vacation without having, to scramble to figure out, how much more you're going to have to put away to keep up with everything. He says that's the definition of true freedom. And people always want to be, the term that I constantly use is ball and chainers, because it seems to be the three kind of friends that I have. You got the ball and chainers, the people that just don't care, and then you got the investors. But the investors are probably like 5% of the people that I actually know. Luckily, I know some successful ones because it's really helped me out being able to mentor just those right people. But yeah, awesome. I mean, it's interesting to see how people do the ball and chain life. But it's a middle class America. It comes back to the same debate. My old tax accountant once told me. He says you can complain about them all you want, but he's like, they're the people that are making your companies go up these insane rates, with Apple offering, you can finance everything you own today, and that's why debt's so high on auto loans and stupid things that, or whatever. And it's making us rich. So it's the sad, the necessary evil behind, how upper class America or Canada works.
Well, a lot of people don't realize too that with my profession, I've got about 5 years in any one given area. So I will be moving from Virginia. So in the real estate game, that is even a very tight window to try to get in, get out, do closing costs, do all that, and be a winner. You can end up in hawk pretty quick. You got to be very careful. And here, when you're slinging around 400, 450,000, 350 with concessions, both of my homes in my life, I've bought both of them for 140,000. The first in Houston, Texas. The second was outside of Detroit, Michigan. Both of them were 140. And so I move here and I've got that perspective, and I'm looking at these homes that are for 400,000. No, thanks. I'm good.
Yeah, Matt and I had an interesting discussion about buying single-family homes, because the problem with them is you're competing with not only investors now, but you're also competing with people that want to live in those homes. Whereas if you're playing in, say, like the Grant Cardone realm, you're only playing against investors, and people usually don't want to overpay to an extent. So you're always going to end up buying an asset that's going to cash flow, because the only people buying them are people looking for that asset to be a cash flowing property. So I mean, it's the dilemma, right? Because it's the same thing in Canada here. It's so overwhelmed at this point with, not only foreign investors driving up the condo markets and everything, you have all these wealthier people coming into the country, raising up a good portion of, different sectors or different little cities around Toronto. It's been fascinating to watch, though, man. I can't get it over. It's an interesting world we live in today, for sure.
For real. Hey, Kyle, I might wind it down a little bit. We've been going 2 hours and 8 minutes, man.
I don't blame you.
You were part of the record. We hit a record tonight on the channel. So for your contributions tonight, man, thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
very
it's always a
much.
pleasure,
Really,
man. I love you doing this. I wish I could have came on a little earlier. I'm kind of exhausted, so maybe we'll bring the energy next time and
I've
find some
seen you
interesting
roll through the
conversation.
door with the earbud in, man, and jumping on live streams. So, hey, it's awesome. And like I said, for the folks that haven't subscribed to your channel, I know there are a lot of people that review this after. You want to kick over and help Kyle support his message, man. I take a lot away from, and I give um, those little compliments, Kyle. I mean it when I say that about. I could say a lot more, but little things I pick up. The very first video that I watched of you, where you talked about your parents and the loan, those things resonate with me. You know,
Yeah.
the other stuff, I know the other stuff. It really does relate with a lot of people, but you're a successful investor. Don't forget that, and you relate to a lot of younger folks too, and that's a good thing because the earlier we
How
can get to
before
people, the
you
better.
sorry,
Sure.
before you kick off, I'm just curious
Yeah.
to do you know your demographics for your age group? Because I'm finding mine's an extremely young age group, and it's kind of shocking to see how many
It's the
people are.
opposite. Yeah, it's the opposite. So I actually had a note on my board to talk about the trickling in of some early 20s on my channel here just recently, which is wonderful. The demographic on mine are like 37 to 45, my age. Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
So you're
So
hitting a
that
whole nother demographic, but you're here
absolutely.
helping us out. Sorry. Yeah, your
Uh,
wisdom is unreal, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I'm happy to be part of this group because I do contend that each and every one of our styles, Kyle, before you popped on tonight, I was kind of hitting on that, where you tune into a Gen X dividend investor, or Jerry
Yeah.
with a GW Life, and you get all these different perspectives. Dave with Hidden Freedom, and Matt with Matt Wright, and Jason. Those guys, you're getting a different perspective from all of them, and I think it's key to take the things that you like from everybody and then just discard what you don't think is going to work for you. That's all right. It's
Y-
business.
You're awesome, man. I'll let you enjoy your night. You probably got to take some breaks on the weekend there with the fam. Enjoy
Rock
the
on,
fam,
buddy.
Jim.
You too, Kyle. Take it easy, man.
Stay awesome, everyone. Cheers.
Super cool. I take this opportunity to thank all the visitors. We had Bishop and we had Steve actually from the DC area. Uh, I'll be thinking about that visit tonight for sure after we wind down the live stream. So we'll make a regular thing of this. I enjoy the collaborative opportunity on YouTube. I do have a survey. You guys are all welcome to kick over there and give me your feedback a little bit. It's a little bit different doing the collaboration and allowing channel creators, subscribers alike. I'm 100% sold, but certainly we want to be delivering a product that you guys are receptive to and that you can take maybe a few moments, maybe the whole thing, and look to empower some of these strategies that we talk about. Like I said at the top of the stream, very simple. There's only so many major brokers out there that you can select your account with. Okay. There's only so many stocks in the S&P 500, for example. There's only so many aristocrats. There's only so many dividend kings. These are names that we mull over on a regular basis on the channel. So when you start talking about the accounts and the products, okay, you put those two things aside and then you start talking about your fitness. We talked about a lot of that tonight. How prone you would be to subjecting your money to risk only to see it enter into a little bit of a drawback in that. How prepared would you be to enter into that? And hopefully you heard my answer. And I don't think at that point the money matters because I think for a lot of people, if they had that first $1,000 and they were ill prepared for that type of volatility that the stock market can dole out, it can. If you're ill prepared for that and you're more susceptible to selling for a loss, that's the type of thing where you would want to step back and reevaluate why invest. I hit Bishop with that question. I do that for a reason. I do that for a lot of reasons. I'm actually looking at reaction, and I really am interested to understand whether or not he and most investors out there have actually asked and answered that question for themselves. Okay. Um, the stock market is going to do what it is it's going to do. It is. It doesn't matter about how much monitoring. It doesn't matter how much worrying. It doesn't matter how much you think you've got it licked here at an all-time high. It doesn't matter. It doesn't care. The stock market has been around for a long, long time. It's gone up and it's gone down. The idea is to select, if you're a starting investor, that opportunity through your account, identifying what style of investor that you want to be, okay? And then those two things set aside, work on your perspective. Because in one word, if I could pull some of the, I didn't really get to some of the stuff that I was going to declare as far as pages out of my personal playbook, driving a truck for 15 years straight until the wheels were about to fall off of it. But in one word, it really comes down to discipline, a desire to achieve wealth in excess of what I was predestined for based on what salary I was able to scratch together from year to year. And in that respect, we are absolutely succeeding on the channel. And that's what I hope people take away from the message when they catch those portfolio reviews, when they need to look past the value. They need to. They need to understand how much discipline, how many years it took, what type of sacrifices were put in place. A lot of people just need to learn to say no, no to temptation. We talked a little bit about courses and stock market groups, but it goes grander than that. Say no to eating out at a restaurant every night. Say no to certain clothing that you have to have. Learn to say no. But when it comes to yourself, learn to say yes. Learn to put yourself first. And that is the empowering message that we look to drive home, especially for new investors that are tuning into this later after 11 o'clock on a Friday evening when most people are out partying, driving around, yelling and screaming like a bunch of idiots. For those of you who have made your way to the message, okay, start to channel some of these fundamental wealth building attributes away for yourself. Start to grow on them if they're new to you. Okay, give it a chance. You'll be amazing how, and I've said it a few times during this live stream, how incorporating this philosophy into your life will make all the difference. And the quicker that you can do so, making it a higher priority, the better off that you will be. So guys, thank you so much. I want to thank the visitors, Kyle and Jamie as well, the channel creators that were on the record live stream tonight, as well as the first time I've had a couple visitors, Steve and Bishop. Really appreciated those folks stepping up. That opportunity will continue to be available. So if you think you want to come on and rap with the group and rap with me directly, come on. We're looking to break down barriers, guys, okay? And I can't do it all myself. And for those guys that came on and gals as well, I'd love to see. I haven't had a female yet on the channel, so certainly my invite goes out to some of you folks as well. You need to start breaking down those barriers for really all people who are seeking out this opportunity in the investing world, because it can be very humbling, but it can also be very rewarding. That's why there's a lot of people who are drawn to the prospects of this opportunity. So guys, thank you. I will sign off and we will see you again next week. Thanks a lot.